My hope here is that by sharing my story, I can help some of you too, or anybody else. Again, you already did a great introduction of Tone It Up. And I'll say, Tone It Up, my business partner and I founded it 12 years ago as I was coming up and out of darkness of my own and coming into a journey. And movement and mindfulness really helped me overcome a lot of my own, I would say I went through like 10 years of depression from having a schizophrenic mother. But for today, I'm going to share my story. My story is not necessarily any different than anyone else's. We all have a story. We all have a journey. But I think by me sharing it, it will open up more of you to share your own story and open up the silence, because we need to talk more about mental illness and speak about it. Because when I was that little girl, I didn't have that. I didn't have a resource. And so today I'm just going to share a story. I don't have a lot planned, except to try not to cry, because today is the 1 month anniversary of the passing of my schizophrenic mother. So bear with me. But yeah, I think the greatest gift in growing up with a schizophrenic mom was to learn that this isn't happening to me, this is happening for me. So I am here today to be a voice for all of us. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my story, and then I would love to move into a meditation with you. I'm huge on mindfulness, and when I took the NAMI family to family course, which I highly recommend it, meditation was brought up in that. So it's a big part of the NAMI, what everyone recommends, because it really calms your nervous system. It helps with stress. So I'll talk a little, share my story, do a meditation, and then I would love to open it up to a Q&A with you. All right? Yay. Okay. So yeah, I'm a girl from Indiana, had a beautiful childhood. And then around 10 years old, things started shifting in my house. And my mom, back then I did not know that her father was schizophrenic as well and had committed suicide when she was 18. But, things started shifting in our house. And it started getting weird where, we couldn't watch TV anymore. There was a lot of religious things in there. Couldn't watch TV, couldn't wear graven images. My mom's schizophrenia was paranoid schizophrenia. But throughout my years growing up, she was in and out of the house, would be a Jane Doe, a missing persons. My dad held on as much as he could to maintain the household, and no one knew why mom was leaving. So that creates, abandonment for a child and just chaos in the house and trauma starting, trauma which you hold in your body starting at a very young age. So eventually, after mom was out of the house and would go on her journeys and homeless many times, she ended up as a Jane Doe, and the doctor said the longest Jane Doe that they ever had. And they diagnosed her with schizophrenia. And once they started giving her medication, she would finally come to and say, oh, I do have a family, I have a husband. And so we would bring her back in the home and have her there with us and have her on her medication. And I know from experience, everyone I talk to, when you're on the medication and then you come off or you're feeling good on medication, it's quite common for someone to go off medication because they're feeling good and then relapsing again. So that happened many times in my teenage years. And when I was that young, we're talking, the 90s, right? No one was talking about mental health. Number one, people didn't have as much education around it. I was a junior high kid going to the library, renting a book on schizophrenia to educate myself. And then I was a little kid who was scared because I didn't want to tell anyone that my mom was schizophrenic. And, I lost a lot of friends, and it was the stigma back then, which, I'm so thankful that we're all here today to break the stigma, break the silence. normalize the conversation. Because if I had someone at that age, at age 13, right, and I didn't feel alone and I had a resource and someone to go to, I wouldn't have attempted suicide. And I attempted suicide at 13 because I felt lost and alone. Because my mom was crazy. My friends thought I was crazy because my mom was crazy. And there's this aloneness. And that's why we need to talk about it. And that's why I've made it such a mission to bring a voice along with NAMI, along with my own nonprofit, The Big Silence, but bring a voice to mental health conditions, to normalize it, because no child deserves to feel alone. No child deserves to feel out of place. And so then I went through 10 years, probably 13 to 21, 22 of my own depression as a result of my mother. And I think it's an important thing to point out that even when there's a family member who's struggling from a mental health condition, it ricochets, right? It ricochets to the entire family, to my father, to my sister, to our friends, to the daughters. And that's the thing of why we need to break the silence. And, I ended up in California because my mom, she disappeared for the last time. And, she was off her meds and she was back home again. And she went off her meds. And one day I came home from school and she's like, come with me on this journey. And she was gone. And she took the car, took all the money out of the bank account. She had kissed my dad goodbye that morning and asked what he wanted for dinner. And then she was gone. And that was the last day that my dad saw my mom. And he stood by her side for 25 years. And that was about 22 years ago. She ended up in California, and I, little 18-year-old Karena, who, by the way, 10 years of depression due to my mom's condition. I was out there partying, doing all the drugs, figured out thought I'd end up like my mom. I was sad. I was lost. I thought I had no self-worth. And I moved to California because the parties were better there. But I found my mom and I lived with her and her abusive, homeless, drunk boyfriend for a couple of years, and more trauma, living with a schizophrenic mom. It's a lot of stories. I have a memoir coming out which fills you in on all of that. But then there was one day, and this is for all of you here too. There was one day, there was this spark inside of me. And I said, you know what, Karena? You're better than this. Goes back to, this isn't happening to you. This is happening for you. So let's shift the narrative in your brain. How can you take this and, number one, heal yourself, heal the trauma in your body, and also do great so that other people don't have to suffer in silence. Because my mom never would admit to her mental illness. There are a few conversations that we would have here and there, and she would bring it up, but then other times she would deny it and not want to talk about it. And I actually remember, one time, my mom was in and out, but I was back with her again about 5 years ago, and I had just done the NAMI family to family program with my husband, because if we have any spouses out there who are married to or have a relationship with someone with a mentally ill child or parent, it's hard for someone to understand, because someone like me, I normalize it. So we did the family to family program, and I asked my mom, I'm like, would you want to talk more about your mental health condition? Because I think you can save a lot of people. And she got very angry. She's like, oh, I can't talk about it because people will think I'm dangerous. It's like, Mom, but you're like the nicest person ever. So that's the stigma. My mom, as her own within her own mental illness, knew about the stigma. But anyway, so we're here in California, and I'm so grateful for NAMI and everything. And, I go back to breaking the stigma. So as my mom, 1 month ago today, was in hospice. Not only she had physical health conditions due to mostly her mental health and being homeless and the wear and tear on her body, but on her last day, she was able to open her arms and say, "I love you." And she said, "I'm sorry." She said, not only, she's like, "I have regret." And I said, "Don't have regret. I only see beauty. I see the beauty in the gift you've given to me to be your voice." And she admitted on her last day, she said, "Mental health." She's like, "I don't just have physical health, I have mental health." And I told my mom, it is my mission to make sure that people don't suffer in silence like she did. Her entire life, she struggled because she didn't want to speak up. She didn't want to get help. She didn't want to go to therapy. She was embarrassed, and that has to stop. So along with NAMI, I am so grateful that we're all here, everyone here is here to educate and talk. And I'll tell you, the more I've talked about my story and my mother over the years, the more friends stand up and say, "Oh, my uncle is schizophrenic. Oh, my son is bipolar. Oh, well, I never wanted to say this because I'm embarrassed." So all of us here with the mission that we're doing, it's so important. And then the other thing I want to talk to you about the stigma. So family members, of course, the stigma around therapy or grief counseling. I think it's really important if any of you are here and you have a family member who has a mental health condition, make sure you're taking care of yourself, because you can't take care of them. You can't do anything unless you're taking care of yourself. So finding counseling, finding therapy. Myself, a month after my mom's passing, it took me some time, but I'm now moving into grief counseling. And I think that's so important to open up that conversation that we all need help. And it's okay. And it's okay to not be okay. Whew, I think I did pretty good not crying. I was talking to my sister before this, and my sister reminded me that tears are a gift. So that's the other thing. As we go through this movement with family members or yourself and you're struggling, tears are a gift. So don't shame that either. So at this point, I'd love to move into meditation with you. I could talk more and more about the story. I know that was a very brief, undetailed description of it, but I have a book coming up. But so if you don't mind, all of us, I don't know if anyone here enjoys meditation or has experienced it. Again, I loved in the family to family program with NAMI that they encourage meditation. So I would love to do that. It's something you can do for 2 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it takes, just to really calm the nervous system, lower your blood pressure, because a lot of times we're in high stress situations. And I know I was, with my mom for 30 years, and lowering that blood pressure is really important, and finding a sense of peace. And this is time for you. So if you're here, I would love for you to either find a seat in a chair that you're sitting in and put your feet on the floor, or a cross-legged position. Let's take a few moments here to just calm down. And this is a practice you can do anytime. And while we're here, let's place our hands on our heart. Take a deep inhale in. Exhale it out. A lot of times when we're under stress, we forget to breathe and we hold our breath. We lose awareness. We lose presence. When in reality, the only true time we're living is when we can live in the present. Keep taking a deep inhale in and exhale out. Good. bring awareness to the pressure points of your body upon the earth. Your feet. Bring awareness to your legs, your knees, your thighs. Take a deep inhale in and bring awareness to your hips. And as you exhale out, release all the tension in your hips. Take a deep inhale in and bring awareness up the back, through your spine, to the middle of your shoulder blades. Inhale in, exhale all the tension out of your shoulders. And then bring awareness to the back of your head. Continuing to breathe. And then bring awareness to your forehead. Inhale in, exhale out any tension. And awareness to your lips and your smile. Can we make a smile? Soaking that feeling in. And then bring that awareness down to your heart. Feel the beating. You're meant to be here. Take a deep inhale in together. Exhale it out. Keeping your eyes closed. Bring around awareness to your surroundings. The noises in the room. The temperature. Maybe emotions you're feeling. Welcome these emotions in. Give them a name. Is it love, fear, grief? Allow them to come and to go. Welcome them. And with your eyes closed and your hands on your heart, repeat this. I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. And just breathe. Let your body calm down, your heart slow. And say yes. Yes to life. And whatever it brings my way. For it isn't happening to me. It's happening for me. And I am open to this present moment, to this life. Take a deep inhale in, and exhale it out. A few more breaths together here. One more deep inhale in, and exhaling it out. And then start to bring awareness back to your body. Pressure points upon the earth. Maybe move your head side to side. Wiggle your wrists and your feet. Put a smile on your face. And when you're ready, open your eyes. When we open up to the Q&A, I'd love to know how you feel after that. I feel honored to share this space with you. And I would love to have Jessica come back and chat a little.
Thank you so much. For those of you, if you guys want to put in the chat some questions, if you have anything, there's a lot of people saying, so proud of you. Thank you. I needed to hear that. I cried, I don't know if you could tell, but We share very similar stories in that I also have a mom who lives with a serious mental health condition and a child that grew up with trauma. I have a couple questions for you right now. One of them is, as that 13-year-old girl, and you said, there's nowhere for you to turn.
Mm-hmm.
What would you have wanted to be available to you to help you through that time?
A conversation. Like when I went to the counselor's office, if someone, instead of just sitting me down and saying, tell me how you feel, be like, this is what's going on with your mom, and education. And that's what I loved in the silence program with NAMI too, because we go into schools and educate. And it was so important. I didn't know what was going on, which just causes more chaos. So someone to be like, this is what's happening. It's okay. And, instead of just brushing everything under the rug and not normalizing it, I needed help when I was that little 13-year-old girl.
Absolutely. We're doing a lot of that schoolwork stuff. I know you have been a huge advocate for that and a leader, really. I have a question here. How can you be a friend? How to be there for a friend who is struggling with some mental health struggles, issues, or living in a toxic family?
Again, just from my personal experience, I'm no expert, just lived through it. I would say listen, because a lot of times it's hard for friends. They don't know what's going on. I've definitely lost a lot of friends over the years who don't know how to help or react. Oftentimes it's somebody who can just listen without judgment and then maybe help them find resources. Because friends who don't understand the experience, you shouldn't expect them to understand it. That's fine, but just be there as an ear, because sometimes you just want to talk and get stuff out without necessarily needing a response.
Absolutely. What do you think the differences are between being an adult child of a person with a mental illness and being a young child of someone with a mental illness?
I've been both. So the difference, well, as a child, again, I'm talking 90s, no education, lost. People thought I was crazy because, my mom and everything going on at home. But then as an adult, I think it's really important to do inner child work. And so the little girl that was never taken care of, to, take care of her and nurture her and love her and help her grow, and let her know. And if you aren't familiar out there about inner child work, it's really important. You can almost shift your mindset and everything that you are missing in your childhood by raising your own inner child and just loving yourself.
Awesome. You mentioned that tears are a gift. I think that that's another powerful statement that many of us can relate to. Why do you think allowing your feelings is so powerful as we're on this journey of supporting a loved one and ourselves?
I mean, emotions are a gift. Feelings are a gift. You can't hold it all inside, because then eventually you're just gonna, it's gonna come out. And tears are so beautiful. Like when I cry now, it's another thing. You used to be ashamed if you cry, or if I'm on here and I start crying, like, oh no, I can't do that. But no, it's an emotion, and it is a gift. It's beautiful. When I cry now, I feel a release. It's a calming. And so I think, cry it out. Go cry. When you need to, you go cry, girl.
And then I have one saying, thank you so much for the difference you're making. You are making in the mental health community. I'm so grateful for you. Somebody just put that here. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and when it's going to come out?
Yeah. I've actually been working on it for 5 years. I started on it as my own release of emotions 5 years ago when I was told to put my mom in hospice. And I was like, no. I got her, by taking care of her and getting her the right help she needed, another 5 years of life. But I started working on it, and it comes out next April 26th, 2022. Um, so you can sign up on thebigsilence.com to stay in tune and up to date on when it comes out. But it's a memoir based around growing up with a schizophrenic mom, overcoming, and remember, it's coming from the darkness and, you know, going through my dark days and then realizing that I needed to believe in myself and coming into the light. So I hope that my story can just help anybody else.
It's so brave of you to share your story and be so vulnerable. I know it's hard in the last month, having lost something that kind of identified you for a while, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I wonder how you're handling, you know, just somebody, you know, my mom is still alive, but when I heard about your mom's passing, because I do follow you on social media, it tore me up because I thought I could relate. And I'm curious, and especially for all of our people who are participating, who have loved ones, how are you doing? And how have you practiced some self-care through this all?
I've allowed myself to grieve. And as it's been a month, I mean, if you need to lay in bed and do nothing sometimes, do it. If you need to cry all day, do it. If, you know, whatever you need. It's very interesting because I have been, you know, I had parentification where I've taken care of my mom basically since I was a little girl, and especially the last 5 or 6 years. So now I would say, I don't know if I lost a daughter or a mother. And it's been hard. But at the same time, there's like, I'm excited. I'm starting to feel better. And that's why I'm going through grief counseling now. I'm ready to move to that next stage because there's trauma that's just stored in your body. It's stored there, and I'm ready to get it out so that I can live my best life. But there's also, you know, it's weird now because I don't have to check in on my mom every day, see if she's okay, see if she's healthy, talk to her doctors, do this, you know, make sure she's got a roof over her head. So there's this like mental space that I'm getting used to. But I don't have all the answers yet. But for myself, you know, I would say the first 2 weeks, I didn't move my body. I didn't meditate. I just soaked in it. But now I'm getting up and I'm working out. I'm meditating, making sure I do all the tools that I preach, you know, eating healthy, all of that to make sure that I can be the best version of me and Karena 2.0.
Awesome. I could ask you a ton of questions. I literally could talk to you for hours. I'm sure we could share stories and connect, and so many people on here. We have a bunch of other questions, but our time has run out. Is there a way that we can connect you to go to the bigsilence.com for all of our wonderful
Bigsilence.com or KarenaDawn.com, both there. Yeah.
Karena Dawn. And then one last question. Everybody loved your meditation. How can people have access to that?
Yay. So Tone It Up, we have an app. So you can download the Tone It Up app. I have meditations in there and workouts and all of that. And when you sign up, you can get a free trial in the beginning. So see if you like it and all of that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your story in your vulnerability and for being a part of our NAMI family. We so appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Jessica. Call me if you need to talk some more.
Thank you. I might do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.